Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? This is Dr. Malik Rahim, and this is our sessions with the professionals. Um, and we brought this along as the executive board of the National Association of Black Counselors to give exposure to our membership and to the world of all the great things that black counselors are doing to help black mental health and black wellness throughout the world. This interview is going to be with Dr. Tawanda Kitchen. She's not only an educator and administrator in the school systems down in Texas, she's also a licensed therapist and she sees clients as well. So we're going to just kind of sit back and kind of talk and have a nice little discussion with my old friend. We first met at Fresno State, and she was my buddy. So, I'd like to introduce the world to the great Dr. Tawanda Kitchen.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Rahim, for this opportunity to spend this space with you.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's been such a long time. It's like I can't believe it how far and developed everything came, and now we're back full circle.
Yeah, it is amazing over time how things change, and one step leads to another step. And I guess the key here is perseverance.
Yes, yes. I like the fact that you brought up perseverance. I wanna kind of let this discussion kind of blossom naturally and organically, but like two old friends just catching up on things on a kind of professional way. But seeing how that you are kind of dual as far as your professionalism, I kind of want to see some of your thoughts on some of the things that are going on. I know the big controversy is CRT, critical race theory, but maybe we'll be able to touch a little bit on that. But the first thing I want to touch on is how do you as an educator and administrator in the school systems down there in Texas, how do you encourage black wellness and mental health with your students, your peers, and even yourself?
Um, Thank you for the opportunity. And in reflection of how I approach Black wellness is just the fact, just the gift of being an African American in various spaces and to be a professional that students see and identify with. I think the first piece is just the awareness and the identifying. You look like my mama, or the piece or the connection, you sound like my mama, that kind of thing, or my auntie. And that opens up a door, a connection, um, just a whole area that you don't have to fight for because they already have a connection with you and the trust. And then with the piece of instruction and raising expectations, that's the next level that you get to be a part of in these students' development. So just being in the space, being present, showing up as an African American is very key.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love how you have like a collectivist community approach to your educational pedagogy, and also your whole philosophy on wellness is like a collectivist thing, to where it's like you're not just the educator, but you're the surrogate mother, you're the surrogate auntie, you're the surrogate big sister that gives them that makes them accountable to the things that they need to be accountable for. And I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. How long have you been in this field? The educational side. We're gonna get to the therapy side for a little while.
Okay, so in the educational side, as for many of you probably don't know, your listeners, I started in higher education. I started way back in 1996. So we did that for several years, and I entered the K through 12 environment in about 2017 because of a move with my family. My husband's job moved, and we were in a new environment. And as many of you know, my family takes priority. And so I felt a call to transition into the K through 12 environment about 2017. So I've been in that particular arena for about since that time, and I've transitioned as an educator in operation in the capacity of special education, as a restorative practice counselor. Just very privileged to have had several opportunities. So.
Do you think that your philosophy? How do you think your philosophy is helping the children of African descent as far as them being able to navigate their way through the educational system and avoid the school to prison pipeline?
I think my approach is something parallels with what you mentioned earlier. Is it causes them, it compels them to be accountable. Things that are foreign are hard to be accountable to. And then in this current climate, with everything that we're seeing from George Floyd to the school shootings now, the January 6th event, our kiddos, our babies are looking at this inconsistency, and they're looking for where they belong, their sense of belonging. And I believe I contribute to that because they have something, not that I'm the greatness or anything like that, but just the very presence gives them something to hold on to.
Excellent. I remember a little story. And I hope everyone be patient with this story, but I remember when we were down in Fresno and there was controversy over getting students funding to do projects. I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus or anything like that. And one of the things you told me, and I'm going to tell you this now, you said, Dr. Rahim, the reason the students like you is because you're real and they can tell you care. Right? So now it comes full circle that now I think the reason the students love you is because they could tell you care. Right? And I think, like you said, a kiddo, a child, a young adult, they can tell when someone really has their best interests at heart. So it makes it a lot easier for them to want to excel because this person is holding me accountable.
It's so true. It's almost like magic. And I get to be a part of that every single day during the academic school year. In fact, I just finished an 11-day summer school stint with 8th graders. And the push was, this is summer school. We ain't supposed to be working. I said, whose name is on that board? And I get to talk to them because I have that connection with them. And when I tell you, those kiddos did 3 to 5 projects every single day. And then at the end of the 11 days, they came to me and said, I did my work. I'm a pass, right? And I guess many people cannot connect to that because they see their job differently. But for me, the achievement, the confidence, the place, the gift of accomplishing something. One of my mentors taught me competence and confidence. Confidence breeds competence. And if you don't give them the confidence, then it's going to be really hard for them to reach for that competence.
Confidence breeds competence. We're going to have to put that on a t-shirt. That's some action words right there.
Miss Maxine McDonald. So that's her.
May she rest in peace.
May she rest in peace and power.
Yeah. Let's do a little transitioning now. We briefly talked about your higher ed stint, which you were beloved. And the funny thing about it is like When I left Fresno State, it was still students there that was still speaking about you because you was this cult figure that was like, bigger than life. Well, if Miss Tawanda was here and they were still speaking about you, so I'm sure a lot of the students that graduated and might even be they're alum now, but it might even be working at Fresno State are still probably speaking about you. You know, now you have a new set of Padawans where you're training to be
Ninjas.
right. Where you're training them to be Jedi warriors, and but that's not your only aspect of your professional identity. Also, you're a therapist, and you said you do play therapy. What is that like working as far as play therapy with children of African descent? Because the funny thing about it is when the model come out, they always show other children and not ours. So what is it like working with our children in that therapeutic setting as far as like play therapy?
This space of showing up again transitioned me well into that space. And play therapy is basically where the child, the client guides, and you get to be a participant, get to be present in their world. And as their guards come down, you begin to see and they begin to share. They share their fears, they share their anxieties, they ask you questions. And the most important piece is you build relationships and you begin to build that trust all over again. And then and only then are you allowed to speak into their lives. Then and only then I'm able to say, you're not supposed to be talking back to that teacher, right? Then and only then am I able to say, you don't have to be that angry. There's another way to process that. Let's work on some steps to keep you out of trouble. So that's how that opens that door for me.
Awesome. Oh wow, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey to become to transition from. You already told us the transition between higher ed and K through 12. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey between K-12 to being a therapist?
This particular was basically based on the fact that COVID hit, mm-hmm. And it changed. And this was my challenge to pivot in a very changing world. And after COVID hit, I had my own fears of going back into the world. So then online work became much, much more attractive to me. But more importantly, I started seeing this need for licensed professional counselors. And I've always strayed away from that because I didn't want to do that. And then I thought about the many hours at Fresno State, the many appointments that I would have with students who would come into my office and they would just sit and talk. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it, but that's what I was doing at the time. Just giving that opportunity for students to talk and share, building relationships, restructuring, cognitive reframing, solution focused, cognitive, all of that was happening and I didn't know it. And I believe that everything in our lives happened for a reason. So in short, let me answer that question. That's what kind of transitioned me there.
You seem so happy. How do you enjoy it?
I love it. I'm absolutely having a blast, enjoying every single day.
That's good. Is there anything you would like to, leave our audience with as far as your philosophy on Black mental health, Black wellness?
For me, what is important is to keep the conversation going. And it doesn't matter what stage or space you're in. If you're able to establish the relationship and to keep the conversation going. What I see so many times is the numbness as a result of trauma. Trauma looks so different. It comes in so many different ways. It can come from a car accident. It can come from far beyond abandonment. We see trauma watching other people go through trauma, and it impacts us. And just having the conversation is so important. Staying connected is so important. So, if I could say anything, keep the conversation going.
Wow. Well, NABC members and all the beautiful family out there, I want to thank Dr. Tawanda Kitchen for coming and letting us, sit and having some gumbo and having a good conversation with her. Um, is there any way that anyone, if they want to reach out to you, is there any kind of information you would like to share on how they can contact you? Or
Sure, they can contact me on my LinkedIn. You see it on Dr. Tawanda Kitchen. And then you can also find me on Dr. K320 on my TikTok station, where I do mostly inspirational content.
well, thank you, Dr. Kitchen. You take care.
Thank
So yeah, so it's like, is there any other projects that you're working on that you want to tell us about?
Well, I do have a project dear to my heart I've been working on for a little while. And it's coming through. It's a book called Melanin Males, designed for school age, and it could probably hit some middle school students, but designed for school age children. It's about a little girl who has a superpower, and her
Mm.
skin changes various hues from cinnamon to the hue of midnight, and it's exciting. It's exciting. It'll be popping up on Amazon within the next 2 to 3 months, and we're working on a couple of other things, some more sequel books to strengthen the well-being of students.
So it's called Melanin Male,
Melanin Mel,
like male, like in Melvin.
Mel,
Okay.
just Mel. Her name is Melanie, but we call her Mel.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Melanin, Melanin. Yes, sir.
And it should be on Amazon in about a couple of months, a couple of weeks to a couple of months. You'll be able to pick that up. So I encourage everyone to look for that. It's about sounds like it's about getting comfortable with your identity and who you truly are. And a lot of us really need something like that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kitchen. And I look forward to purchasing and reading that book. Now I have a quick question before we leave.
Hmm.
Does vitiligo only impact people of African descent, black people?
No, and actually is 1% to 2% of the world's population. So we're looking at 8 billion people in the world right now. That's like 80 million to 160 million that's affected. And it doesn't matter if you're, you know, uh, African descent or European descent or Asian
Mm,
descent, Middle Eastern, whatever. It affects 1% of the population. And there's there's been like a struggle within the community and everything, where some people feel um, they're not acknowledged for having vitiligo. I know
really?
people who are more fair skinned or like white, people tell them like, I don't see your vitiligo, even though,
Mm,
if you really look closely, you might be able to see it.
mm,
I remember I was at a conference and this one girl, she was she was Latina, and she was like, she was really pissed and upset that people would not acknowledge. And I was like, look, I don't know what they're on, but I see your vitiligo. Because like, no matter what, whether a person can say, oh, I see it very clearly, or, you know, I see it very faintly, or I don't see it at all, you know what's going on with your body. So whether someone else acknowledges or doesn't acknowledge it, you know what I'm saying?
right.
What matters is your perspective of it. So in your perspective, you see your pigment changing all over your body. And, it's very frustrating when other people won't acknowledge, like, oh yeah, I do see, your vitiligo, or I can understand, I'm sure you have struggles, because there's an internal struggle, because sometimes people notice when one little pinprick spot pops up. I know for me, my spots are constantly changing. So I notice these things. And other people may not notice, like, man, oh no, your vitiligo still looks the same. But no, I notice the different patterns and everything as it changes.
Right.
And sometimes in the community, there's this um, distinct on colorism where people kind of exclude people experiences having vitiligo. So, that's a whole nother part of the community that, I feel needs, focus on and looking at.
Right. Almost like my oppression is deeper than yours because my vitiligo is more seen than yours is.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. And, I think as far as a community of individuals who support each other, that can actually do damage, you know, emotional damage to someone who's struggling with their vitiligo, feeling unseen, or even with, other people may have a chance to like notice and really pay attention, like what's going on when another individual of color doesn't see a big problem, because like, well, your tones kind of look the same and everything like that. I can't tell the difference.
Right.
That's really doing a disservice to that individual, invalidating their experiences and whatnot.
Exactly. Exactly. This almost really messes with their identity. Like, I have no place to go. I'm shunned by this. I feel shunned by this community, and I feel shunned by the community I should feel welcomed by. You know,
Hmm.
what do I do? So it really messes with a person's mental health potentially.
Oh man, there's such a struggle there, um, especially when people feel like, man, this person should be able to understand what I'm going through. And then when you talk to them and they're like, well, I don't really see that you have a big issue because your pigment is kind of very similar. So, you're what you're talking about, I don't connect with it because I know I go through struggles, and I don't think you really go through the struggles I go through. You cannot, you know, tell an individual, you know, what their struggles are. You can't walk in another individual's shoes. All you can do is just listen and hear what they're saying. And you might be able to connect with that individual on some level if you listen.
Right. I think I was having a conversation on a other episode. That was we were talking about submission as far as in relationships,
Mhm.
And one of the things I was saying is that as men, we get this concept of masculinity of being so strong that a lot of times when we got to get comfortable being able to listen and not having the feeling that we got to solve the problem. Because a lot of time our significant other will bring us a problem, but all they want to be is heard. But we're too busy trying to, because we're trying to protect it, we're so busy trying to solve their problem and not actually listening to their problem, their issue, the concern that they have. And once we start learning to actually listening, we create that safe space so they could feel that they can submit. Because submission, for a person to submit to you, they got to feel safe that you're not going to take advantage of them, you're not going to do them harm. And if we're sitting there always trying to solve the problem, sometimes they just want to be heard.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I think fundamentally, we want validation, especially when we're going through like similar struggles and everything like that. And to not get that validation, you never know what impact that may cause, whether a person may like isolate themselves or shrink inwardly and disconnect from people. I say you have to listen exactly what this person's message is and respond in kind, have empathy, have compassion, for another person's experiences.
Exactly. Wow. Well, again, thank you, sir, for the deep conversation. And I look forward to sitting down and meeting with you again and maybe breaking some bread or something.
For sure. I look forward to that.